Sure, namaskar to all, and it's a hearty welcome from my side and also Meghar and other experts. So to start this panel discussion, I can say the webinar panel discussion, and the subject which you have chosen is one of the most important subject, and also you can say the critical subject of one protection engineer, because whenever any kind of fault it occurs in the bus bar, that we call the kind of critical fault, and that particular fault must have to be pinpointed such a way so that the kind of spurious tripping or mal should not occur. So in these practices, we have got a global repute experts, Dr. K. and Dinesh Babu. So a few lines about Dinesh Babu from Mega, and having of the large experience related to this field, and having the designation as an application engineer. And he is a professional power system protection engineer in India with extensive experience in HB, EHB substations and industries. His work background includes experience in working with Alstom and ABB, GE and Megor, all global repute organizations are so in various roles as testing, commissioning, design, application engineering. So great. Sure, Dr. Dinesh Babu. Then we are having with us Reslin Madam. So she is having of 32 years of experience. It's a huge experience, rich experience in the field of transmission and distribution, and basically one of the premier utility Tamil Nadu Electricity Board. So she was with her starting her career from assistant engineer, then the chief engineer, and retired with a chief engineer. So at present, her organization at the when she retired, organization was of TAN Transco. So great. So you must be listening her also regarding her experience. And finally, last but not the least, Praveen Kumar Garwa. So he is also one of our Spark member at present, and currently working with MP Power Transmission Company Limited, also another premier utility of India, working as a superintending engineer. It is of TNC, and he has more than 33 years of experience, huge experience. So vast experience in the field of operation, maintenance, testing, commissioning of ESB equipments up to the field, up to the level of 400 kV. So finally come to me. For me, need not any kind of introduction, because I'm just going to the admin of all Spark group members. I'm of course working with OPTCL as a deputy general manager, having around 30 years of experience, and other point of things we must be going for Dr. Dinesh Babu, because he is the he will be playing the pivot role and will be guiding all how to go for this important critical protection of a busbar protections. So over to Dr. Dinesh.
Thank you very much, sir, for the introduction. Good morning to one and all. So as discussed earlier, this is going to be about the key application challenges which we always come across when we are testing a busbar. So during engineering level, in the factory, during the testing and commissioning level, and after putting it in successful service, thinking that everything is perfect, we come across a lot of issues, that is a real field issues. So that is the main agenda of today's discussion, not the fundamentals of busbar, but the real field issue. What has happened at field when the perfect logic which we thought was perfect has failed, and how to overcome this in future. So with the solution, that's what we are going to discuss. And just a quick review on where we have presented all these information. So whatever we have discussed is actually globally presented in several conferences and multiple journals. So what we introduced in KPCL Saravati earlier, that was presented in PacWorld Glasgow in 2015. Then we had a CT Open Bay Detection Logic, which we presented in Australian Journal. So similarly, what we implemented in Madhya Pradesh Electricity Board MPPTCL, eliminating status wiring itself, so that Mr. PK Kargava would be talking more on that in the coming slides. So this was presented in Hong Kong. Then we had a journal on SIGRE Russia and a few in NTPC IPS conference and WRPC US conference, and some more on breaker failure issues, CT logic testings, switching logic testings, testing methodologies, and how many CT should be used in bus coupler and bus sectionalizer. So these also we presented in SIGRE, NWET in Spark conference itself we did in February 2019, and recently we did an IEEE, and this is scheduled South Korea. So with this I move on to the agenda of this presentation. So the flow is shown in the left side. We talk about busbar protection basics, and that's not going to be an in-depth one, as we know this is a very matured crowd which already knows the fundamentals. We are going to focus more on these areas: the bus unification concept, isolator discrepancy, blocking logics, how the busbar should be blocked, the requirements of the CT, how many CTs, where should it be located, what is end fault, what kind of tripping should we give. So should we trip the busbar or should we trip the remote end? What is LBB? So LBB we know, but what kind of issues can occur in LBB? And CT trouble. So what is the trouble in having CT trouble? So should we really have CT trouble? Should we block busbar or should we permit the busbar to trip? Last is, we are now talking about 61850 9-2, where we are trying to eliminate copper and using process bus technology and something like this. But before 61850 implementation itself, in MPPTCL we did some copperless bus bar. So that's going to be discussed here at the end, and then we conclude with some final takeaways. So let me start with the bus bar protection. Whatever we discussed doesn't differ. It is still the same fundamental Merz price scheme of differential protection. Low impedance and high impedance, very well known. So depending on the system, whether it is single bus, we go for high impedance, or if it is complicated with lot of isolator changeover, we go for low impedance to adapt to the dynamic bus replica. Centralized, distributed, this also two types of arrangements depending on how many bays you have, what are the advantages, which is best. So we cannot say centralized is better or distributed is better. It all depends upon your application, and that also we would throw some light in the coming slides. Okay, this is some interesting area which we can understand better, because these are the fundamental concepts available in the modern technology inside numerical relays, like directional principle, rate of change of restraint algorithm. So what are these actually? So this is something like to better understand, I can show like this. When we are configuring a slope, let us say slope 1 and slope 2 in differential testing, we can say 18% as slope 1, 20% and slope 2. 20% as slope 1, or in slope 2 somebody says 80%, somebody says 81%. So how can we be accurate? Like if I say slope 1 is 20% and somebody is saying 19%, somebody is saying 21%, which is correct? And there is a calculation involved, and the calculation involves approximation. So we cannot say which one is perfect. There cannot be a perfect settings, ideal settings. Maybe 99% of the situations, the settings that we calculate would work perfectly, but there may be some rare scenario. So whatever we are going to discuss today is to handle during worst case scenarios only, because most of the time you might feel that our bus bar is in service for the past 10 years, no issues, but that's because we are talking about 99% of the cases. But normally power system protection is designed for worst case scenarios. So for worst case scenario, even if your settings are not accurate, maybe somebody said 19%, somebody said 21%, that means there is a mismatch. So even if the setting is wrong, the relay should be intelligent enough to differentiate between a healthy condition and a fault condition. That's the power system protection principle. Do not trip during healthy condition, trip only during fault condition. So even if you cross slope 1 and move to the operate region, then also the relay should not trip if it is a secondary system fault. It should trip only when there is a fault. So for this directional principle helps a lot. So what is this directional principle? We can assume an example like this. You have 10 bays in your bus bar. Let us assume 5 bays are incoming and 5 bays are outgoing. So when a fault occurs, since the fault current flows through the least resistance path, all the 10 currents will change direction and start flowing towards the faulty region. That means all the current direction will be aligned towards the fault. This is called as directional principle. Let us assume a worst case. Out of the 10 currents, one current is not there because of some problem. Maybe the CT wire is removed. Now what happens? Only 9 currents are there, but in reality 10 currents are there. In the relay there are only 9 currents reading. Now due to this, what will happen? There will be a differential current flowing in the circuit. However, the directional principle will not be satisfied because out of the 10, 5 currents may be entering, 5 currents may be leaving, but in the relay only 4 currents are leaving. That means 5 in one specific direction, 4 in some other direction. Therefore, the relay will understand that even though differential current is present, it has not satisfied the directional principle. So unless directional principle is satisfied, bus bar will not issue trip command. So this is about directional principle. And another concept is rate of change of restraint. This is like whenever a fault occurs, your differential current as well as restraint current both should increase simultaneously. If your differential current alone is increasing and restraint current is not increasing, it is not a fault. So let us take the same example. Out of 10 currents, my differential current is 0, restraint current is, let us say, 1 per unit. Now suddenly one current is invisible because of some secondary issues. What will happen? 9 currents are available. When you calculate the differential current would have increased, but the restraint current will not increase because maybe let us take in this example maximum current principle. If there is no fault, restraint current will not increase. So the relay also checks both. Differential and restraint both increased, trip. Only differential increased, restraint is not increasing, don't trip. So whatever I am discussing is actually not a sophisticated new algorithm. It's all already inbuilt in the numerical relay. We are just throwing light on it to understand that even if our settings are 19 or 21, it should not permit the relay from unwarranted operation. Okay, the question is whether we are enabling this or not. It is already there in the numerical relay, which we are already using. Have we enabled it or not? That is the question. And that's what we are going to discuss in further. So let me discuss with some examples. So for this example, let us assume a single line diagram in this manner. I am not taking a single bus or 1.5 breaker because that's a very simple arrangement. This is somewhat tricky. So when we understand this, you can even understand the 2 main 1 transfer easily, and any type of system can be understood. Now this is the way by which it is going to work, how it is going to be allotted, how the CT selection is done. So that part I will explain now, and in all the coming slides we are going to use this sample single line diagram. So when this part is clear, all the other parts would be very easy to understand. So let's see the key. Here we have a small box. This box is called as the isolator. Just I am representing in this manner, and the big box is represented as the breaker. So using the ANSI standard, I have given the isolator names. Bay number 1, CT is called as 1CT. 89A isolator is called as 189A. 89B isolator, which is connected to bus 2, is called as 189B. The breaker is called as 152. So the same terminology repeats for second bay, third bay. Green color means open, red color means close. Same rule applies for isolator. So now in this condition, what are the values read by the relay? IED current allocation. So we have to understand this table. This table is what is very important. We have 2 types of zone concept which we all know, main zone and check zone. So when I write zone 1 here, it is called as the main zone. Zone 2 means main zone, zone 2, check zone. Check zone means the entire zone. And I have written the CTs here, 1 CT, first bay CT, second bay CT, third bay CT. Now we have to find which CT is going to read in which bay, which zone. So 1 CT, is it there in zone 1? It will not be there because the isolator is open. Is it there in zone 2? No, because 89B is open. Same thing repeated. So you can see no CTs are read in any of the zones. And what we have here is the differential and restraint formula. The formula would be simple vector addition or subtraction. So vector addition is the modern algorithm which we are using in numerical relay. So this will be the difference between all the currents shown here. And restraint current, for our discussion, let us assume maximum current principle, easy to calculate. So whichever current is maximum in this, that would be reading as restraint current. So let's move on, operate some isolators and breakers and see the current flow direction. Now I have closed this isolator 189A, 389A. Bus coupler is open. 152 and 352 is closed. So I am going to allot in this manner. The relay will read like this. 1 CT, 189A is closed, so it will read in zone 1. 3 CT, 389A is closed, so that will also read in zone 1. So now what we see here, 1 angle 0 plus 1 angle 180. When we add this vectorially, like complex number addition, 1 angle 0 plus 1 angle 180 is 0. Maximum of 1 and 1 is 1. So differential current is 0. Restrained current is 1. 89B is open, so nothing is reading in zone 2. Check zone is independent of isolator. Therefore, both these currents are reading in check zone. Why this 2CT is not reading in check zone? 2CT is actually not the incoming or outgoing current. It is a circulating current within the substation. So the incoming current of the substation should be equal to outgoing current of the substation. Kirchhoff's law. That is what we are following. Therefore, check zone will not read any internal circulation current like bus section CT, bus coupler CT. Even if the CT is present, that current will not read in check zone. It's a fundamental principle which we use. Now the next question asked is, why this is 0 degree and why this is 180 degree? How this is read as 0 degree? Okay, let us understand. 1 angle 0, here I have written 1 angle 180. Okay, since it is written 1 angle 0 here, I am reading 1 angle 0 here. Since I am written 1 angle 180 here, I am reading 1 angle 180 here. Now the concept is, why I have written 1 angle 0 here? Why I have written 1 angle 180 here? This is our convention. Okay, let us understand this. There are 4 conditions. The CT, star point earthing, if it is towards the bus bar and if the current is flowing towards the bus bar, angle would be 0. First condition. Second condition, if the CT earthing is away from the bus bar and the current is flowing towards the bus bar, angle would be 180. Third condition, if the CT earthing is towards the bus bar and the current is flowing away from the bus bar, angle would be 180. This condition. 3 CT condition. The fourth condition, if the CT is earthed away from the bus bar and the current is flowing away from the bus bar, angle would be 0. So if it is confusing, just understand in a simple thumb rule. If the current is flowing in the same direction where the CT neutral point is earthed, then it would be 0. If it is opposite, the current flow is opposite to the star point earthing, it would be 180. So in this example, 1 CT is earthed towards bus bar, 3 CT is earthed towards bus bar. In fact, if you have 20 CTs or 40 CTs in your substation, all CTs are earthed towards bus bar. So whenever current flows towards the bus, angle is 0. Whenever the current is flowing away from the bus, angle is 180. Simple. So this logic is very clear. The only confusion occurs when it is bus coupler or bus section. So that I will discuss in the coming slides. So currently what we understand is only 2 concepts. Current flowing inside the bus, angle 0. Current flowing outside the bus, angle 180. Reason is all CTs are earthed towards the bus. Second question, earthed towards which bus? That actually depends on the isolator status. So whether it is bus 1 or bus 2 makes no difference. It is earthed towards the bus. If you close 89A, it is earthed towards bus 1. If you open this and close 89B, it is earthed towards bus 2. That's the concept. Moving on, second example. Now we are feeding through zone 2. Incoming, connected to bus coupler is open, feeding through 3 CT, going out. Now this is the current allocation and this is the direction. There is no change in direction, incoming current, outgoing current. And it is read in zone 2 because 189B and 389B is closed, A is open. Now what is the differential and restrained current? 1 angle 0 plus 1 angle 180, this is 0. Restrained current, maximum current. So your system is perfect in this example. Third example, feeding through bus coupler. So current flowing into bus 1, routed through the bus coupler and flowing out through bus 2. Like this. What is the current direction? CT allocation. This is CT star point earthing which we discussed earlier. Now let us understand the concept. 1 angle 0. Yes, it is flowing towards the bus. CT2, earthed towards bus 1. Okay, assume CT2 is earthed towards bus 1. but current is flowing away from bus 1. That means it is 1 angle 180. So 1 angle 0, 1 angle 180. Perfect. Now, what would be the current direction of 2CT in zone 2? So this you have to see. CT is earthed towards bus 1, but current flowing away from bus 1. Therefore 180 in bus 1. But in zone 2, what is happening? CT2 earthed away from zone 2, current flowing towards zone 2. If it is out of phase, it has to be 180. So in the conventional system, what we do is we used to have two cores and two CT. Core 1 will be earthed towards bus 1, core 2 will be earthed towards bus 2 to provide this angle change. However, in numerical relay, this angle change is actually mathematically done inside. So what we do here is 180 plus 180, always 180 will be added in bus 2. So the simple concept is in bus coupler or bus section, if you are using only one CT core which is earthed towards bus 1, in whichever bus it is not earthed, like in away from that particular bus. So in bus 2 it is earthed away from bus 2. Then in that bus we will add 180 to it. So that means 1 angle 180, 180 plus 180, 360, which is again 0. That's how this 1 angle 0 appears here. This is the firmware logic which we implement in the numerical relays. So in the current scenario, you need not use multiple cores with different neutral earthing. However, in numerical relays, low impedance relays, this is possible. But if you are using high impedance, you have to go with the conventional method of having different earthing to balance the current. Next, what is the 3CT condition? It is flowing away, therefore 180. So one side is 0, one side is 180, it's flowing here. Now you can see what is the differential current. 1 angle 0 plus 1 angle 180, differential current 0. Here also 0 plus 180, differential current 0. Now check zone. Bus coupler is not in picture. Incoming current, outgoing current. So this is also 0. So the system is perfectly balanced. Now whatever we discussed is repeated for all the base. So even if you have 40 currents here, 1 CT, 2 CT, 3 CT, 4 CT, 5 CT, etc. up to 40, the same logic applies here. Even if you have number of bus bars as say 2 main 1 transfer 3 bus, you will simply have zone 1, zone 2, another zone 3 and check zone. Another column would increase, but the same logic applies to that. Okay, now whatever we discussed is the same fundamental. Now we are going to application issues. So let us assume that this is a perfectly implemented system with all the angle logics and Kirchhoff's current law, Morse-Price scheme, everything perfectly implemented as per the fundamental. Now what problems can occur here? So let's see the first one. Bus unification. Bus unification means in any of the bay, the isolators are closed like this. Normally this is prevented using hardwired interlocks, but we are discussing about worst case scenario. Hardware failed, interlock failed, or something happened. Now you are having a 89A and 89B closed in one of the bay like this. This can be in any bay. Bay number 1 or bay number 40 or bay number 20, anything. If this happens, it is an issue and we have to address this issue. Now what is the issue? Let us see how we are going to address this. In the relay, we will follow this concept. The concept is very simple. Whenever any one of the bay has their 89A and 89B isolator closed simultaneously, the bus coupler CT will not read in any of the zones. This is the concept. Now why we should eliminate? What is the fundamental behind this? Let us see the fundamental. Current actually flows like this. And this is a parallel path for the bus coupler. If there is a parallel path, that means current has two ways to flow. So maybe 40 to 60% would flow here, 40 to 60% would flow here. It's not exactly 50-50 because that depends on the internal resistance of the path. So 50% current is only flowing here. That means 2CT is reading the wrong current. And here there is no CT to read the current that is flowing here. So how can we use this wrong current in our differential calculation? So first point is eliminate the CT from all the zones because it's giving wrong input. So we eliminated it from all the zones. Everything eliminated. Second concept. Read all the CTs in all the zones, irrespective of isolator. So we are not worried about isolator status. All zones will read as check zone. Okay. If we are reading like this, then what will happen? For a zone 1 fault, zone 2 also will trip. For a zone 2 fault, zone 1 also will trip. Then there is an issue how I can differentiate the zones. Okay. The answer for this is we have to trip both the zones, because now it is not a 2-bus arrangement. The moment you close these two isolators, we call this as a single bus. Because even if zone 1 fault occurs, even if you open bus coupler, still zone 2 will be feeding through this path, because it's only isolator and there is no breaker mechanism available to eliminate the faulty part. So the moment any two isolators are closed, it is a single bus arrangement. So you have to trip the entire zone. So that is why this concept is implemented in this way. So this is called as bus unification concept. In bus unification concept, what we do is, whenever any one of the bay isolators both are closed, bus coupler CT would be eliminated from all zones, number 1. And point number 2, all the CTs will read in all the zones except the bus coupler and bus section CT. So when we implement this logic, the solution is perfect. You can see here. Now also differential current is 0. Okay, moving on to the next section, isolator discrepancy. So let us see what is that.
May I
Yes, sir.
Yes. This isolator, closing of isolator 89A or 89B, these both isolators should be closed only when 252 is on. Otherwise, it is in operation. You cannot close the isolator when 252 is in off condition. Otherwise, through isolator current will flow. So this operation should be done very carefully in field.
Yeah, it's a on-load closing. So we should first create a parallel path and then we have to close.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the input. I was not recalling to inform that. Okay, next part, isolator discrepancy. So let's go back to the same example. We are feeding bus 1, bus coupler, and feeding out through bus 2. Now the problem is, suppose I have written a key here. Isolator discrepancy means no color. So now this isolator, I have removed the color. That means there is a discrepancy. The discrepancy means physically the isolator is closed, but the relay is not getting feedback. A very common problem which is occurring in many stations, because so the numerical relay technology only has to take care. How it will take care? Let us see. The moment this isolator is missing, this current will vanish from zone 1. But check zone will not eliminate the current because it is independent of the isolator status. So main zone may pick up. So what will happen to this differential current? It will read current. And if you are having in a conventional system, we have taken a worst case scenario, like only 3 bays here. Normally you will have 10 bays, 15 bays, 20 bays, etc. In that kind of situation, we discussed earlier directional principle. The directional principle will check the direction of all the bays. So during a healthy condition, if one isolator status is missing, there may be other bays which are having some more currents with 0 degree and 180 degree. So the bus bar will trip only when all currents are 0 degree. Even if 1 or 2 currents are 180 degree, it will not permit tripping. In that scenario, for this isolator discrepancy, main zone will not pick up in directional condition. And anyway, even if it picks up, check zone will not allow operation because check zone has not picked up. Now what should we do? Should we block the bus bar for this condition? We should not block the bus bar. The reason is, if we block the bus bar, then during a fault occurring during this condition, a worst case scenario, during a fault occurring after an isolated discrepancy, if we have blocked the bus bar will not trip for that fault. Therefore, we have to use a secured logic. The logic goes like this. The trip logic for each zone has 3 input AND gate. The first input, main zone directional. Second input, check zone non-directional. Third input, bus PT under voltage. Now this is a very, very interesting concept, because in many countries globally, Canada, Europe, Russia, they are using this kind of under voltage security for additional security, as additional security to overcome many principles. And in India, in MPPTCL, we have done a lot, but it all depends on your requirement actually, because this is not a hard and fast rule, or no IEEE standard specifies that it has to be there. But if you do this, we have a lot of advantages. I'm going to show that one. So when each zone has this kind of supervision, then we can understand some worst case scenarios. Isolated discrepancy, yes, this is eliminated. Now this is a question, it can be high. Now main zone, in this example it has picked up, let us assume. Check zone will not pick up. Bus PT under voltage will not occur. PT under voltage will occur only when there is a bus fault or some external line fault. So in the absence of fault, because of this check zone, and in addition to this, your bus PT under voltage is there, it will provide security. Now you may have a question, check zone is already there, then why you need bus PT? There can be problems when check zone also would fail, because that we will discuss during CT trouble. Because when CT itself is having a problem, main zone and check zone both will have a problem. That time the bus PT under voltage will come into picture. So currently we are just discussing about the 3 input logic security. We will further discuss more on this security as we progress further. Okay, next one. Blocking logic. This is a very interesting one. So, it's a simple NOT gate. When I should block bus bar? So normally we have a TNC switch. When we throw the switch in out position or block bus bar position, it will make an input high in the relay. That input will go and block bus bar. So what will happen? These 3 are 0, normal healthy condition. Bus bar is not picked up, no fault is there, system is healthy. That time you want to block bus bar to do some testing in the secondary. You want to take the relay secondary out of service and do some testing. That time you throw the switch, bus bar block switch in out position. Immediately it makes a binary input high in the relay. That would be inverted and this would become 0. So when the binary input is high, bus bar is blocked. Perfect. 90% of the time it works. 10% there is a problem. So what happened? In some substations we faced this problem. So there we blocked this bus bar, and then we disconnected the CT secondary, and we were injecting from the test kit, and now the main zone is picked up, check zone is picked up. We have simulated bus PT under voltage condition, so all are 1, but the relay is not tripped because this is blocking. Now during the scenario, what happened? There was a disturbance in the DC supply, battery disturbance, due to which the relay rebooted. After the relay rebooted, bus bar tripped. Now what happened? Why this occurred? So when we analyzed it, we found that this binary input should become high to block bus bar, but before the binary input became high, already the tripping was executed, because when this input is low, this would be 0 and this would be 1, so it would allow tripping. So whenever there is a reboot of the relay, because a relay can reboot even if you write the settings. DC disturbance is some example. Even if you write 61850 settings, to implement that you have to reboot the relay. When the moment you reboot, before your input senses, the bus bar will trip. So this is a dangerous scenario. So how to overcome this? Simple concept. When the binary input is low, bus bar should be blocked. That's all. So the very simple NOT gate is, whenever the binary input is high, we have to allow tripping. Whenever the binary input is low, we have to block tripping. So this NOT gate logic should be implemented in the schemes to ensure that this kind of problematic situations are addressed in a perfect manner. So bus bar should be blocked when the input is de-energized and not when the input is energized. So next one, CT requirements. Okay. How many CTs are required in bus coupler and bus section bay? One of the most commonly asked question which comes to many people's mind. So let's discuss. An example, we have 2 bus. Zone 1, bus 1, green color. The area is shown in green color is based on the zone segregation in the relay. For the relay, CT is the boundary, not the breaker. But for us, the breaker is the boundary. But for the relay, the CT is the boundary. So we have two CTs here. CT here, CT here. We are going to analyze this case with 4 conditions: fault in location A, fault in location B, fault in location C, fault in location D. Let us see what will happen. This chart will occur. Now let us see, forget about B, C, D. Let fault in A. Okay, fault in green color area. Bus 1 will trip. All the base connected to zone 1 and bus coupler will trip. Perfect. So zone 1 trip, zone 2 no trip. Perfect. Second, fault in location B. This is overlap region shown in purple color. That means what will happen? Both zones will trip. Zone 1 will trip, zone 2 will trip. Third condition, fault in location C. What will happen? Overlap region. Both zone will trip. Fault in location D. What will happen? Zone 2 will trip, zone 1 will not trip. So it's very simple concept. Now, what happens? Conclusion. Unwanted trip of zones in 2 scenarios. What are the 2 scenarios? B and C. So for B, unwantedly I tripped zone 2. For fault at C, unwantedly I tripped in zone 1. Right? So when you use 2CT method, this is the result. Now let us analyze with another method, 1CT method. So I don't have another CT here. There is only 1 CT here. Now the zone is segregated like this. From here zone 1 starts. From here zone 2 starts. Different types of faults. Same location. Now what will happen? Let us understand. Fault at location A. Zone 1 will trip. Zone 2 will not trip. Perfect. Fault at location B. Zone 2 will trip. Zone 1 will also trip. But there is a delayed tripping. Now what is this logic? Why we are calling it as delayed trip? Okay. Whenever there is a fault in the blue region, it will trip all the base and it will open the bus coupler. The moment bus coupler is open, this fault is still fed by zone 1. Now what the relay will do, it will monitor the status of the bus coupler. Whenever the bus coupler is open and if there is fault in the CT, bus coupler CT, it will trip zone 1. So this logic is implemented in the numerical relay. So that means what? You don't need 2 CTs. With 1 CT itself, you can still do it. However, there is a trip delay. What is the delay? The delay is the breaker operation time. So after a fault occurs in location B, zone 2 trips the breaker. All the base connected to zone 2 along with bus coupler. The moment bus coupler opens, the CT will be eliminated from zone 1. This is another way of looking at it. But in reality, what happens is, once the breaker is open, the CT will be eliminated from the differential calculation. It's not like end fault, like taking breaker feedback, we will monitor the current. That is also a different way of doing it. But what we are doing is eliminate the CT from the zone 1 calculation based on bus coupler status. So the bus coupler operation time is actually the delay. So second question, what happens if the fault occurs at C? Only zone 2 trips, zone 1 does not trip. What happened if the fault is at D? Only zone 2 trips, zone 1 does not trip. So perfect. So from this what we conclude? Unwanted trip of zones is only one scenario, whereas when you are using 2CT method, we have tripped in both the scenarios. Okay, but at the same time we should understand that when the fault occurs in this region B, there would be a delayed trip. And one more important point, circuit breaker status is required for this kind of solution. What happens if the status fails? Worst case scenario, breaker feedback is not coming to the relay. So for that we also created a sophisticated algorithm in such a way that whenever zone 2 trips, we will add a timer. Zone 2 trip, output is added to a timer. The timer should be greater than your breaker operation time. After the timer, this CT will be removed from the picture. So even if your breaker feedback is failed, is not coming to the relay, still the secured algorithm will go and work as a backup. So we are putting an OR gate. What are the conditions when I should remove the bus coupler CT from the zones? Condition number 1, breaker feedback should come. 52B contact should be high. 52A contact should be low and B contact should be high. Okay, what I told is right. Second condition, whenever the other zone, that is zone 2 trips, after a certain time delay that is greater than your breaker operation time, we will directly remove the CT from zone 1 algorithm. So this is the pros and cons. So what is the conclusion? We are not telling you have to use 2 CT or you have to use single CT. We should know the pros and cons of both, because in the previous method we are spending so much money installing another CT and we are actually creating 2 unwanted scenarios, unwanted trip in 2 scenarios. Whereas here at reduced cost you are getting a better solution, only one scenario is there. However, we cannot call this as better solution because there is a delayed tripping. Now this is left to the user to decide, because for distance protection in the relay specification we are mentioning that 40 milliseconds delay is acceptable. And if you are having only 1 or 2 feeders and if it is a transfer bus coupler, then why should we go for such a costly expensive solution by adding another CT and creating 2 scenarios against the power system protection principle? Tripping the healthy part is against the protection principle. So it depends actually. If your substation is connected to a major generation source, you have to go for dual CT arrangement. No delay is permitted. Delay will reduce the life of other equipments. Whereas if you are in a light load situation, like you are connected to a solar grid, a weak source, it's not going to feed the fault current with very high magnitude for a longer duration. In that scenario, go for this solution. This is cheaper. So it's left to the user. After understanding the pros and cons, they can decide. The next one, who should be tripped, remote end or bus bar? So let's analyze this very interesting concept. Bus bar followed by breaker, after that your CT. Now there is a common question which comes to everyone's mind. If the fault occurs between CT and the breaker, what should I do? So this is an example. Fault occurred between CT and breaker. Now what happens? Okay, according to the breaker, this fault is external fault, not a bus fault. But according to the CT, this fault is a bus fault. First point number 1. Second, this fault is the backside of the CT. So the distance protection which is connected to this CT will not sense this fault in the forward zone. It will be a reverse zone fault. Second point. Now let's club these two together. If a fault occurs here, bus bar will trip the breaker, this breaker. After tripping the breaker, the fault is still fed from the remote end. And distance protection cannot sense this because when breaker is open, some relays even disable protection when breaker is open. So when breaker is open, what I should do? Now, when the breaker is open, same concept which we discussed earlier. When the breaker is open, this CT current is monitored. If current is present, bus bar will send tripping to the remote end. This is called as end fault. So here we are tripping the remote end. Second, here also fault between CT and breaker. You can see bus bar, CT, breaker, but the position is differentiated. CT and breaker is changed like this. So now let us understand the fundamental. According to bus bar, this is a external fault because it's outside the CT. But according to the distance protection relay, this is a zone 1 fault, internal. Now who should trip? Okay, let us see the step-by-step operation. First, distance protection will identify this fault in zone 1 and it will trip this circuit breaker. And it will also send a carrier signal to the remote end. Fine. Even after opening of this breaker, bus bar will start feeding this fault. So now what we do, after opening the breaker, the current in the CT will be monitored. Or you can even eliminate the CT from differential. So once I eliminate, the boundary is not there. The bus bar will extend up to here and it will trip. So in this case, trip the remote end. And in the second case, trip the bus bar. So who should be tripped, remote end or bus fault? This is a common question. Answer is depends on your circuit. There is no final decision. It all depends on where your CT is located. It changes from single line diagram to single line diagram. Okay, next, moving on. Local breaker backup. So we all know what is LBB. Now we are going to only see one key issue. Breaker failure initiation has resulted in several unwarranted operation of bus bar. We have seen several cases bus bar tripped, and on what protection it has tripped? LBB has tripped. Okay, who has sent the LBB? One particular distance protection relay has sent the LBB. Let us go and analyze the distance protection relay. We find that the distance protection relay did not send any initiation signal. What is this problem? We have seen this globally. Many places, many countries have reported this issue. So this is because of spike input due to cable aging, and the numerical relay input is very sensitive. So when the input is sensitive, even if there is a 1 millisecond or a 3 millisecond input high, immediately breaker failure will operate. Okay, how to solve this? Number 1, the breaker failure initiation signal should not be latched. It has to be self-reset. This is one common mistake which many numerical relay configuration is not permitted. So self-reset or latched, you can choose anything. Numerical relays will permit anything, but we normally don't focus on this area. So we leave it as default, and by default, if it is in latch condition, even if there is a 3 millisecond spike input, that will hold for another 200 millisecond, and for the 200 milliseconds anyway supervision current will be available. So after 200 millisecond, bus bar will be tripped. So first point, eliminate breaker failure in initiation signal as a self reset. Sorry, I should not have used the word eliminate. Reconfigure and make this breaker fail initiation signal as self reset. Point number 1. Second solution, application of retrip. Yeah, so we are not going to add another equipment or increase or buy some additional equipment to do this. Already numerical relay has this option. So whenever there is a fault in a, let us say there is a line fault, distance protection relay tried to send a trip signal to the breaker. Now let us assume 86 relay failed. Now what happens? It tried to trip the breaker, 86 relay has failed. Breaker has not failed, 86 relay, master trip relay has failed. Now this relay will send an initiation signal to the bus bar relay. The bus bar relay will monitor the current for 200 milliseconds and it will trip the entire bus. Now instead of doing this, after 100 milliseconds, after receiving the initiation from the distance protection relay, after 100 milliseconds, send the trip signal only to that particular line instead of the entire bus. This is called as retrip. Now what happens? Bus bar is actually not tripping through 86 relay. It will trip through another master trip relay called 96 relay. So in this way, if 86 relay failed, still you will not lose the bus bar for an external fault. So after 100 milliseconds, only that particular bay will trip. And after, okay, second case, you may ask that this is applicable only for 86 relay failure. What happened if breaker itself failed? That is, after 100 milliseconds, I will check whether that particular bay is clearing the fault or not. If it is not clearing, after another 100 milliseconds, that is total 200, anyway it will trip the bus, give you the same solution. So this is an additional security where you can safeguard your bus bar, thereby enhancing your grid stability, because operation of bus bar is going to shake the grid for few milliseconds. Another condition, solution, implement a debounce timer. This is an beautiful feature because it's hardly 5 seconds work. If you are having numerical relay, already there is an option called debounce timer available in the numerical relay. What is debounce timer? Debounce timer means it is the duration for which the input will not be sensed. For example, you gave an input high. If my debounce timer is configured as 10 milliseconds, the input has to be high for more than 10 milliseconds. Only after that the input will be sensed as high. So all numerical relays should be having this. You just enable that to 10 milliseconds or 15 milliseconds. Then it will address this. Okay. Now there is one question. If I increase the debounce timer, then for a real fault, there will be delayed tripping by that particular duration. Very good question. So the answer is reduce your trip time of LBB. So if you are using debounce timer as 10 milliseconds, instead of configuring 200 milliseconds for LBB, make it as 190 milliseconds. The balance 10 milliseconds is compensated in the debounce timer. So the final output is still the same. Your bus bar will be tripped after 200 milliseconds only. So we are not actually challenging any guidelines here. We are compliant to that with the advanced sophisticated technology. Okay, moving on to the last section of my presentation, that is CT saturation detection. A very interesting concept. Many people ask, when the CT gets saturated, what will the relay do? Will it block or will it trip? Number 2, for internal fault CT saturation, what will happen? Number 3, for external fault CT saturation, what will happen? So we are going to answer this in the next 2 minutes. Just look at this. This is the biased differential curve where ID, differential current, is plotted here. IR, restraint current, is plotted here. We have the minimum current here up to breakpoint 1. After breakpoint 1, breakpoint 2. So between these 2 points, it is slope 1, and after that, it is slope 2. Now, this is a well-known concept. I'm not discussing on this. This is just to step by step recall it. Now, point number A plotted here. This point indicates that your system is healthy. There is no problem, no fault. Bus bar is in service. And then why so much differential current is that this is your minimum supervision current, less than that because of your CT errors. So it is here. Now what happens? Your fault, suddenly a fault occurs. Let us assume it is an external fault. Now when an external fault occurs, just use an integration, use a differential view. We are going to use a lens, and you are going to zoom in. So let us see every millisecond what is happening, every nanosecond what is happening after the fault occurred. Your full load current is 1 per unit. Let us assume at 2 per unit or 3 per unit. Okay, let us assume at 3 per unit your CT is going to get saturated. So from 1 per unit, in 1 nanosecond it is not going to become 3 per unit. It will increase 1 per unit, 1.01 per unit, 1.02 per unit, 1.03, etc., up to 2.5 or 3. Okay. So during this time, what will happen is the point A will slowly increase like this, and it will reach a specific point B. Till this point, no CT has saturated. This is the locus A to B. After it reached 3, maybe if your bus bar is having 30 CTs, one CT got saturated, one of the weakest CT. After it got saturated, the differential current will increase further, and it will cross the line and it will appear here. Now, if you see the locus, from B to C it moved. Now what happens? A to B, B to C. Even if the point is above the curve, the relay will not issue trip because it knows the locus. ABC means external fault CT saturation. Now you just see, if this slope 2, if it is configured like 79% or even 80% or 90%, nothing will happen, because the relay is following locus theorem. That's what I was telling. Even if your settings is not 100% accurate, relay will work perfectly as per the requirement. But the only good point which we should note is, relay is, though we call it as intelligent electronic device, I would say it is a dumb device. It is like an Excel sheet. Whatever formula you are entering, the answer will be there. You cannot blame the Excel sheet for that. So we have to program the relay correctly. Okay, now let us see the other concept. This is external fault CT saturation condition. Now let us see internal fault CT saturation condition. The fault is internal. I am at point A. Now the healthy current, how it will become fault current? Slowly it will start increasing. Differential current will directly increase and it will move from A to C. So when the locus is A to C, it is internal fault CT saturation. So even though the differential current is at C, if the locus is ABC, relay will not trip. If the locus is AC, relay will trip. That's all. This is how external fault ABC locus, internal fault AC locus. This is how the CT saturation detector works in the relay. This is one universal algorithm which is very famous and it is available. So how to test this? We have to test this properly. So for that, point A, you can use a state sequencer, create this condition. Point B, state 2. Point C, state 3. So delete state 2. Directly from A to C you move. Relay will trip. If you move from ABC, relay should not trip. So how to implement this algorithm? These are all not required for end user. Whether it is working as per this condition or not, this is what we need to test. If it is working, algorithm is inside. If it is not working, algorithm is disabled. So we have to ask the manufacturer to proceed and enable it. So now I would hand over the session to Rexelen madam to discuss about the CT trouble issues.
Problems in CT trouble detection and solution is a topic which I'm going to continue from where Dr. Dinesh had left. So in this kind of arrangement, from the screen, you can see the picture. So in this kind of arrangement, let's assume that one CT is faulty. In this example, one CT is considered a faulty CT. So there is some kind of issue it is having a CT trouble. This will result in elimination of the current in the main zone as well as the check zone, because both the zones are using the same CT core. In such a situation, how will the relay provide the security we need? The conventional method is actually to block the bus bar using CT trouble. This is not the right way to do it. With the availability of sophisticated algorithms in numerical relay, CT trouble should not be used to block the bus bar. This is point number one. Why should we not block the bus bar? If the bus bar is blocked, let's say there's a fault occurring at that situation. So, CT trouble followed by a fault. Then for a real fault, the bus bar would not be able to trip. Then how can we address this situation? So far, the same trip logic which Dinesh had described, rather discussed earlier, would help. Now we can see here, because of the absence of this current, there may be some differential current, and this would be non-directional, not the directional one. So when we use this kind of trip algorithm, main zone directional, check zone non-directional, and bus PT under voltage, what will happen? The main zone directional in this example would become 1. But in reality, 99% of the case, this would be 0. Because in this example, we have considered only 2 bays. But in majority of the cases, many bays would be there. Just because one current is not there, it doesn't mean the directional principle will get satisfied. There may be another 5 to 10 bays. Out of these 5 to 10 bays, several incoming and several outgoing bays would be there. So during a fault, for the directional feature to pick up, all the current should flow in the same direction. Only then directional will pick up. So in this example, we have considered the worst case where only 2 feeders are there. So directional has picked up. Check zone has also picked up because the current is not available. But the bus PT will not pick up. So CT trouble has not blocked the zone, and the relay also has not tripped. We have taken a very rare scenario. Otherwise, main zone also would not pick up. So only non-directional would pick up. Just assume another condition. If main zone has not picked up in directional and many bays are there, so for this CT trouble condition, if there is another fault occurring, so if there's a fault occurring, then what will happen? The main zone directional will pick up. The bus PT under voltage will become high due to the fault, and the check zone is already in picked up condition, so the bus bar will trip. So in this way, For CT trouble, we should only give alarm to the operator and we should not block the bus bar. For this, we have to understand two scenarios. The centralized bus differential architecture and the differential architecture. So now we can see the centralized bus differential architecture as shown here. We call this as phase segregated bus differential, where each phase from each CT is connected to a separate relay. Relay 1 for R phase, relay 2 for Y phase, and relay 3 for B phase. The second case is distributed architecture. Next picture, please. Distributed architecture. Here we have the central unit and the bay unit. The bay unit is connected to each bay, and where all the three phases R, Y, B of each bay is connected to each relay, as in the sketch. And they will be communicating to the central unit. Now, what is the need for understanding these two circuits? That is distributed and centralized architecture bus differential in this particular CT trouble condition scenario. See, when all the three phases are available in one relay, then the facility of calculating symmetrical components, that is positive sequence, negative sequence, and zero sequence current is possible. Whereas in the case of centralized relay, the symmetrical component calculation is not possible because it is not available in the same relay. It is available in independent relays. So why should we have the symmetrical components? What is the benefit of having symmetrical components in a bus differential system? The advantage is when there is a CT trouble condition, the relay will be able to identify using the simple logic, a two-input AND gate. The first input, zone 1 CT trouble, one alarm is available. Second input, a negative sequence current in one CT. If these two are satisfied, then CT trouble in day 1. So the same logic can be repeated every day. So the operator is not only informed about CT trouble in which zone, but is also informed about CT trouble in which day. Okay? So this is very easy in distributed bus bar arrangement. But in centralized arrangement, since it is not having symmetrical components, how can we do this? Let's see how this can be done. A single bus bar, here the logic is this. if there is CT trouble in this zone, along with that second input, is the breaker closed? Yes. Third input is the undercurrent picked up. That means the settings can be minimum supervision current, let's say 0.2 per unit. So when all the three are satisfied, that is CT trouble in the zone, breaker closed, and undercurrent picked up, what does it mean? The breaker is in closed condition, CT trouble in the zone, but the current is not available. When these three conditions are satisfied, then we can alarm the operator, telling him that there is CT trouble in this particular bay. So the same logic would be repeated in all the available bays. So this is for a single bus example. So you can see it on the logical diagram, whatever I have told. Next, for a double bus arrangement, the logic goes like this. Bay 1 in zone 1 is the CT trouble in zone 1, is the CT trouble in check zone. If all three are satisfied, okay, it comes out. So this is for bus A. Now for the second bus, Bay 1 in zone 2, CT trouble in zone 2, check zone, CT trouble has picked up. So when any one of these is satisfied, it is verifying whether the breaker is closed, whether undercurrent is picked up. If all are satisfied, CT trouble in that particular bay is noted. So this will be repeated for all the bays using this logic. We can identify which CT is having problem. The third example is a 1.5 breaker arrangement. This is similar to single bus bar. So the same logic goes in, but it goes 2 times. CT trouble in the respective zone, along with that breaker close condition, and undercurrent for each zone. And we repeat it. This is also evident from the logic shown over here. The last one is a 3-bus arrangement, 2 main bus and 1 transfer bus. So whether the bay is in zone 1, check for the trouble condition. Zone 2, check for the trouble condition. Zone 3, check for the trouble condition. When all are satisfied, check the breaker is closed, undercurrent is picked, then CT trouble in that particular zone. So what we see here is not just a theoretical solution. This has been implemented in 400 and 230 kV Parameta SS of TNEB, and is in successful service since 2015. Moreover, the logic has been published in an Australian-based journal. So what we suggest here is, rather conclude is, to identify the CT trouble issue, there is no need for using any additional equipment. With the use of advanced logic, we can simply modify the existing relay itself and get this information done. I repeat, there's no need for using additional equipment to identify the CT trouble issue. With the use of advanced logics, we can simply modify the existing relay itself and get this information done. So all we need to do is to just update the specification and get this implemented. Thank you.
Ma'am, generally we are not giving breaker status. So in that in this logic, we have to give breaker status to the relay.
Yes, sir. Actually, if breaker status in places where end fault is applicable, normally breaker status would be available. So in that kind of situation, we can use the breaker status to monitor the supervision current here. So if breaker status is not available in the relay, then we have to modify the logic. We cannot use this logic shown here. This logic is based on the breaker feedback.
Yeah. Yes. In 2-man and 1 auxiliary system, CT switching is required. Whether the feeder is in zone 1 or zone 2, zone 1 means bus 1 and zone 2 is bus 2. So CT switching is required. In 1.5 breaker scheme, it is not required. And ideally, CT switching is to be done by isolator position. And when the operator is closing the isolator, automatically the signal should come to the relay that it is this feeder is going to be in bus 1 and feeder is going to be in bus 2. But sometimes it happens and lot of wiring is to be done to get the signals from isolator. And moreover, they by the aging and weather condition, the isolator mechanism box are not working properly, and we are not getting proper signal to the control room. And so alternate arrangement we have seen, we have implemented in our system. And instead of getting the isolator wiring, we used replica of the isolator. If isolator 1 is closed, then push button 1 is closed, and if isolator 2 is closed, then push button 2 is closed. So for this arrangement we have made, and it has reduced the wiring of the CT or cable cost from the yard to the control room. But in this arrangement, operator can do the mistake. Suppose he has closed bus 1 isolator, and he has put on switch of bus 2. Then there will be a CT incomplete or CT selection error will be there, and it can be detected by this logic. Here bus 1 bias or bus 2 bias will pick up, but bus 3 is here is the bus 3 shown, but it is a check zone. So check zone will not pick up, and because check zone don't see the isolator position, all CTs are connected to the irrespective of the isolator position, all CTs are seen by the check zone. So check zone will not operate, and CT incomplete error will be there. So operator mistake can be detected in the it can detect the operator mistake. So this implementation of copperless wiring or copperless implementation of the busbar scheme by using a replica of the isolator. We can save a lot of cable wiring, and of course it is a financial benefit also. Or moreover, the one more thing is there. If operator has closed both switches simultaneously, even then bus unification will be there, already discussed in previous slides. So it will be safe. So in operation, bus unification will be there, and no blocking will be there, and bus bar will act perfectly. And even we have given the window fascia also. If operator has given the both, one isolator is closed and he have put on both switches, then bus unification window will appear, and we will detect, operator will know that I have given a wrong push button, and because of that bus unification alarm is there. So all these issues can be covered, and we can use this push button replica successfully. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just conclude, sir. So this whatever which we discussed right now is not just a theory. This has been implemented successfully into more than 28 numbers of substation in MPPTCL and tested, and it is in successful service since 2014, which has resulted in huge saving of copper cable elimination. And in addition to the trip logic which we discussed earlier, this under voltage bus protection is also implemented. So any kind of wrong selection, all these things are addressed using the additional security level here. And whenever there is a fuse failed, under voltage will be permitting the tripping. Unlike distance protection where under voltage will be blocking distance, here in bus bar, whenever fuse fails, it will that particular input will become high. So it will wait for the main zone and check zone only. So that also is addressed here. So conclusion, what we discussed here is the above logics which we have discussed is based on the real feedback given from users time to time, based on all the fault analysis which we have been doing. So based on that, these logics were developed and installed. These logics may be considered for further fine tuning because we cannot imagine all the situations of our system. As and when we come across something, we will be fine tuning the logics. So there's a lot of scope to improve if any of us can challenge these logics by explaining a specific scenario, which will help us to change some OR gate, AND gate, NAND gate, NOR gate, and do something more. So in the next presentation, maybe we will be able to talk about something better than what we have currently discussed. So way forward, the testing procedure may be considered with all these inputs. Like all these informations are already available in numerical relay, all these solutions. But unless we test it, we don't know whether it is enabled or disabled. That is the status of IEDs. Past experience and previous fault analysis should be considered while preparing this testing procedure. And every time a fault occurs, we have to verify ER OSC FR. So oscillograph file OSC is currently available in all relays. So we should be able to play back that file in the new system which we are implementing to ensure that the new system does not have any kind of glitches which we have faced earlier. So the specification point also was discussed during the question answer session. So with this, we conclude and we hand over the session to Mr. Patnaik sir for the final words.
Yeah, actually, it's a kind of the fantastic panel discussions we have, because the area is of a critical, and all our experts are also having of a field experience, and Dr. Dinesh is of one global repute expertise on this field. And in one line, I can say the day was there when we are using of these copper logics and electromagnetic relay, then electrostatic relay, then static devices, and all these things. So those were not that reliable because of having all those inputs in a correct manner. But in present practice, we are in the digital world, having of a numerical relay, and all those things we can realize, and the concept of a goose is coming very soon. and logically to decide everything, and considering all those things in the controller unit, finally to go for implementing those things at the end result and all. So all these things are of that way. We are always on that stage, which it can be also taken forward. This is one point related of today's panel discussions and all. So we are extending our heartfelt thanks to all the speakers and all the experts